Thank you again for joining us for another edition of the UWAG Financial Education Webinar Series, where today we will be talking about 6 steps to legacy planning for the generations. Presenting today is our COO of UWAG, Arnie Peckler Sr., and he will discuss different scenarios with you as regards to legacy planning. Go ahead, Arnie.
Thanks, Jennifer. Welcome. Appreciate your being here with us today. And thank you to whichever United Wealth Advisors Group advisor invited you to this series. This is one of my favorite areas is succession and legacy planning. So look forward to presenting it to you. And as we move forward, the first slide always in any of our presentations is the disclosure slide, which basically says that we don't give legal or tax advice. Many of our advisors work in conjunction with your professional, whether that be attorney or accountant or other financial professionals. So that's what this disclosure lets you know. So let's talk a little bit about legacy, succession, estate planning. It goes all by the same thing. And I'm going to start with my definition and then go into a few statistics. So many years ago, I came up with a comfortable definition for estate planning. And that is, I want to give what I have to who I want, when I want. And secondly, if at all possible, I want to avoid any tax, legal complications, publicity, or family difficulties. Now that's sounds like a fairly easy definition of estate planning, but when you get into it, you find that it's pretty complicated. So first of all, this is an area that many of us don't pay attention to and talk about. Gallup shows that 55% of adults don't have a will. So they don't even have a basic will. 44% actually have a will. And of course, there's a variance of 1% just in terms of the statistics. 51% of people reported having a will in 2005. So it's actually getting worse, not better. Older Americans are more likely to have a will, and that's not a surprise because as we get older, we start to think more about our own mortality. So why should we have a will? If I don't have a will or a trust, then there's no official direction to guide my family. Family members may disagree about wishes, and that isn't because they're trying to be obstinate. It's we all hear different things at different times, and someone may make a comment in passing that a family member heard regarding pretty much any issue of estate or legacy planning. Uh, and if that isn't put in writing, then the conflict can happen, even amongst people that are well-meaning. It's not a question of bad intent. So family members may disagree about your wishes. A state goes into probate and is divided according to state law. One of the things that we all have a will, whether we've drafted one or not. Intestacy laws in each individual state, if we don't have a will, actually become our will. And it's often not the way we would have liked to seen it. And there's no final message to family members. So it's really important that we get out ahead of this and develop a will and or trust or the two in conjunction. The other thing that's super important is sudden incapacity. If I do have a sudden incapacity, no one knows my medical wishes. I don't have anyone appointed to make medical decisions for me, and no one has authority to handle finances. So when we look at legacy and estate planning, sometimes it's overlooked that incapacity in many ways can be as difficult as actually, having passed away. So the biggest problem with estate planning and getting prepared for it is it means thinking about dying. And this is a quote, one of the greatest obstacles in estate planning is the perpetuating of death denial. Most people don't want to plan for post-death lives because death is a scary topic to even think about. So both death and incapacity are very difficult things to think about. It's not pleasurable to think about myself in either one of those situations. So it's very easy to avoid it because we don't feel that it's imminent. death or incapacity. So, what if I don't have an estate plan? Heirs may be subjected to a number of obstacles such as probate, creditors, lawsuits, judgments, and legal fees, all of which can compromise the value of the legacy. So, without a plan, much the same as anything else in life, often there isn't a good result. So I often say in terms of planning, there's two pains: the pain of discipline, which is putting together a plan, and the pain of regret, which means I didn't put together a plan. I'm always have it in the back of my mind that I haven't considered it, and the pain that can happen amongst my heirs could be considerable. So common estate planning problems, we'll address a few of those. No will or trust or advance care directive has been created. Overlooked provisions such as guardianship for minors. No tax planning. And tax planning is obviously very fluid, as are the other things in terms of guardianship. Financial strain, cash shortage for survivors. One of the things that's very difficult is we may have assets, but can they actually be converted to cash when our heirs need them the most? The benefits of estate planning, it spells out our healthcare wishes. We all have different feelings about what would happen to us if we were incapacitated, and it's really very important to spell those out, not to leave those decisions to our family members who may not be sure how we really felt. Possessions go to heirs you choose without wrangling or dispute. Different people, often as we talk about that, I want to give what I have to who I want, when I want. That's what I'm talking about there. Different ones of our heirs may have a desire to have certain pieces of personal property, certain assets. All of those things are super important. I always say that money is easy to divide because it has numbers on it. It's easy to divide money, but other things that we have are much more difficult to divide. Avoids additional unplanned legal expenses and provides for loved ones not otherwise protected. So those are all the benefits of estate planning. And the theme that I think about often is peace of mind. What's the other benefit of estate planning? Peace of mind. So what's missing? And I kind of set that up by talking about peace of mind. Is what character assets are important for me to pass to the next generation? Um, that is really my legacy, right? Is not just what I have, but what I believe, what I think, all of those things. So character assets are your values, health, spirituality, heritage, purpose, life experiences, talents, and plans for giving. Those are all things that are intangible but important. Also, intellectual assets, your business systems, alliances, ideas, skills, traditions. When I just happened to think about this, just came into my mind. My mother-in-law passed away about 9 months ago, and all of our family has spent so much of the last 9 months reviewing traditions, recipe books, pictures, things like that. And fortunately, my mother-in-law had done good planning and had put those things together in a fashion that could be shared with her family. So, certainly I have seen the benefits of estate planning both with clients, but also equally as important with family members. So, generational planning is a modern, intentional two-phase process that expands estate planning's reach and helps you plan your legacy, not just this generation, but succeeding generations. So, talk a little bit about more about that. The first objective, passing on a family's tangible wealth and assets, including traditional estate planning. The second objective, conveying your family's values and history, its legacy to the next generation. Both are done for the benefit of the next generation, but I would also say they're done for the benefit of the person who's doing them. Uh, Peace of mind is a very valuable asset. So the successful legacy plan includes several people. being sure, most people want to be sure that their spouse has enough resources to live comfortably and is able to carry on managing finances alone. One of the biggest compliments I've had as a financial planner over the years is when one of my clients says, Arnie, what I really want to be sure of is that my spouse is taken care of, and will you do that if I'm not here? To me, that's the biggest compliment that can be paid a financial advisor. Um, Makes me really feel great about what I'm doing and who I'm doing it with. Also, children, are they prepared for their inheritance? A lot of people don't like to talk with their children in in general, much less in specific, about this is what's going to happen and this is how it's going to happen. And this is why we're putting it together the way that we are. We at United Wealth Advisors Group are very interested in what we affectionately call kids of clients. And that could be 60-year-old kids of clients. But it's very important that when we do the planning, as long as our client wants to have those next generations included, that we include them, because that makes a lot more cohesive plan. So not just children, but also grandchildren and future generations. It's important that they understand how we lived, what we thought was important, and what we lived for. And then other people sometimes they have an interest in charitable organizations, causes, things that are important to them. So people and organizations you believe in and use your contributions to carry on good work. So that's an important part of legacy planning for many of our clients is charitable intent, wanting to make a difference going forward. So what's the process? We're going to talk about a 6-step legacy planning process. Um, there could be 10, there could be 4, but we're going to talk about 6. So let's get started with that. Part 1, plan for incapacity. No one has a crystal ball. We can't know when incapacity is going to happen. So the first part is to plan for incapacity. What happens if I become sick or hurt and I'm unable to make decisions for myself? 2 important documents there, an advance directive for healthcare and a power of attorney for finances. They don't have to be the same person. So you might have one person who you feel would be best suited to help with healthcare decisions and another with finances. They can be the same person, but they don't have to be. And that's something that you want to get with your attorney to help you draft. Part 2 is get organized. And boy, that can be a difficult thing, can't it? We just went through a move, so we had to get organized to move. So prepare for the real business of estate planning. I talked earlier about what do I have. So first of all, when I say I want to give what I have, so I have to identify my property so I'll know how to divvy it up among beneficiaries. If I own property jointly with someone else, I can't give it away. It automatically passes to that other person. So decide what you have. How is it titled? Who owns it? Is it owned correctly? Is it titled correctly? Determine if your estate will be subject to estate taxes. I'm a big believer that when we do planning, taxes are a consideration, but they're not the driver. That's why we say I want to give what I have to who I want. But can I position my estate in such a way that I'll avoid or minimize taxes? Also, I want to make it easy on my spouse or children. Give them access to important papers and passwords. Help them to know what to do first. Um, we have your UWAG advisor has access to information about, heaven forbid, if you have someone in your family who is nearing death, or what do we do to prepare? If you have a friend, what do we do to prepare? But we should always at least have that put together. What do we do first? And then provide special instruction and explanations for your decision. If they need to be explained, rather than having people guess after you've passed, or if you become incapacitated, it's good to have some explanations. So that's important in getting organized. Think about the people you love and the causes you care about. Um, I often say that I can tell what's important to someone if I see how they spend their time and how they spend their money. And the other thing that I say, a lot of people get tired of my cliches, but you can fake caring but you can't fake showing up. So where do you show up, and how do you want that to continue if you're incapacitated or gone? So also consider contingencies and special circumstances. What if the spouse dies first? Us men are probably more guilty of that typically, of saying, oh well, I'm going to die first, but there is no organized order in how that happens. So what if spouse dies first? Should I divide equally among my kids or according to need? There isn't a right or wrong answer. I always say to clients, I'll help you do anything unless it's illegal, immoral, or against public policy. So um, it isn't a right or wrong. It's just, what do you want to have happen? What about grandchildren, other friends or relatives? Do you have a child you don't feel is ready to handle an inheritance? A child with an alcohol problem, a drug problem, pending divorce, things like that all should be considered. Do you need to provide for a special needs child? And you want to be sure that if you have a special needs child, that your planning aligns with other benefits that your special needs child may be eligible, that your planning doesn't jeopardize those benefits. We always want to look for unintended consequences. We want to be sure that we're organized and we don't have unintended consequences. And prepare your beneficiaries for their inheritance. We talked about that before. Now is the time to talk with your spouse and children when you're doing this planning. Part 4, work with financial professionals to put your wishes in writing. One of the things that we often share at UWAG is one of our goals is to, we affectionately say, play nice with others. We want to play nice with your attorney, with your accountant, other investment people, uh, people who address risk on the property casualty side of the business. It's very important that we have an integrated plan and that we put wishes in writing, that we get that in writing. A will isn't always the way. Assets can be transferred by many different methods. They can be transferred through titling and beneficiaries, what we call inter vivos, among the living. If an agreement is made among the living, then it precedes whatever might happen in a will. So if something is titled or has a named beneficiary or is handled through a trust, then it doesn't go through the will typically. All of the accounts and wishes need to be coordinated, very important. Some estates are simple, some are complicated. Best to work with an attorney. And our job as financial professionals is to know our client. And same with a good attorney. They're going to know your client. They're going to understand what your wishes are, and they're going to be able to codify them, put them in writing so that they're clearly communicated. Attorneys can make you aware of possibilities and contingencies that you don't know about. And like I said earlier, the plan has to be dynamic. It has to change as laws change, as situations change. So start creating your family legacy. That's can be fun. It's pretty interesting when you start to look back. So let's see how we would do that. Possible ideas might be writing down some memories. One of the things, again, my shared mother-in-law having recently passed, is put names on the back of pictures, names, dates, put those things together because someone might know that that was Aunt Mildred, from way back when. So write down memories, put together scrapbooks, photo albums, compile favorite recipes, teach someone your special skill. Sometimes there's a talent or a skill that the next generation might have an interest or an aptitude in. So take the time to teach someone that skill. And, it isn't always about being humble. So if there's something that you're good at, share that with the next generation, leave that legacy. Uh, I want to give what I have. What do I have? I have talents, I have training, I have skills, I have memories. It isn't just physical things, it's what do I have on both sides. So part 6, monitor and update your plan. I've said it several times through the presentation, and that's why it's important to work with an advisor who does annual reviews, at least annual reviews, because things change. When I meet a client on reviews, almost always, I say, what's changed? Because that's important. So things change, and so will your plan. People get married, divorced, die, are born, get sick, life situation change. You might change your mind about something. You may have an idea that when you put your plans together 15 or 20 years ago made sense, but you've had a change of heart around a particular area. And those things are difficult sometimes to address, but important to address. Having the wrong people inherit your money. Sometimes the worst thing that could happen if someone has significant challenges is they get a little bit of money or a lot of money. It throws fuel on the fire. I mean, the thing we think about first would be addiction. If someone has a problem with an addiction and all of a sudden they receive a lot of money, that could be unintended consequence of really making the situation worse. So having the wrong people inherit your money. One of the things that we see often, I call it checking the box, being sure beneficiaries are up to date. As simple a thing as that can is important. It's important to be sure your beneficiaries are up to date, and a good advisor can help you do that. So working together, we have a lot of resources that we can share. Your United Wealth Advisors Group advisor is part of a team of professionals throughout the country. Many of us have different expertise in several areas. We also have great estate planning attorneys on staff at our home offices, and we have relationships with people who are certainly professional in terms of tax, estate, planning, and we're happy to put those people together with your professional so that they can work in tandem. And it's so important, that we do work together to come up with a coordinated plan that works well for you, our clients. That's the most important thing. So imagine how you will feel. And I started off about talking this. Imagine how you will feel when you're in a situation. If we can get the next slide, it's going to start. So when we get into a situation where your legacy is all set, you have a trusted person ready to step in and help if it becomes necessary. So very important. Peace of mind I talked about. Your records are organized and accessible. Your loved ones will be provided for. And boy, that's an important thing. If we think about, if we go on vacation, we leave a list of here's all the things that we want to be taken care of. What if we go on that last vacation and don't return? So your loved ones will be provided for, and that's peace of mind. And most of us say, how important our family is. This is a way to be sure that, heaven forbid, if I'm not here, that I have the peace of mind knowing that my family will be taken care of. You'll be remembered for your unique contributions to the world. Uh, and that can be very important, the legacy that we leave behind. And how many of us have family stories that we continue to tell, and those stories can be augmented and even made to come alive for those next generations if we make that part of our legacy planning. So that's tremendously important. It's not hard. You just got to get started. So, like so many things in life, it's just get started. And your UWAG advisor can help you do that. We can begin to gather data. What do I have? I want to give what I have. Who do I want to give it to? And when do I want to give it to? So lots of ways to get started. Whoever invited you to this seminar, a great way is just to get back with them, set an appointment, begin the process, and but just be sure that now is the best time. And there's always a lot of reasons to procrastinate, but it's just important to get started. So we certainly thank you for taking the time to be with us on the webinar today. I enjoyed presenting it to you. It's something that I'm passionate about because with 40 years in the business, I've seen the results of good work. I've seen families provide an amazing legacy and leave behind plans and a way to complete those plans. And it's so fulfilling when you see that happen. So thanks again for attending. To get started, just call your United Wealth Advisor Group advisor that invited you to this webinar, and they'll be happy to get you on the path. Enjoy the rest of your day. And once again, thanks for attending.